Hi, this is Keith. First of all, I want to thank you for watching this video, and if you've watched my other previous videos, if you like them, please remember to hit the subscribe button. And as promised, I am today going to speak about the Book of Enoch, which is a controversial subject even among Christians, and many Christians do not even realize the existence of this particular book. Um, I want to also just say that I've been rather busy of late, so that's the reason why I'm posting this video a little late, more than a month after my last video. Um, so before I start talking about the Book of Enoch per se, I just wanted to highlight the fact that there are two or three distinct groups of Christian apologists out there in the world today. Okay, um, when we say apologists, meaning these people are involved or dabble in apologetics, Christian apologetics, meaning the defense of the Christian faith against attacks, and sometimes uh, these people also do Christian polemics, whereby uh, they would also engage in debate against other religions. So like I mentioned, there are two or three, okay, depending on how we're going to define it, there are two or three distinct groups of Christian apologists in this world today. Now, the first group is actually Christian apologists who go out there and defend Christianity against the attacks of the second largest religion in the world. You know what it is? I'm not going to say it because I'm living in a country where this religion is the major religion, so I'm not going to say it. But the first group of apologists defend Christianity against the attacks from people who adhere to the second largest religion in the world, and you all know what that is. Okay, so they go about, they study the you know the this particular religion, they study the life of the founder of this particular religion, okay, to and then they sort out the differences between Christianity and this religion, and they justify and give reasons for why they believe in Christianity and they believe in Jesus Christ in the first place. Okay, the second group of Christian apologists, I would say, are I would call Enochian apologists. Now, this this group is vastly different from the first group. Now, why I would call them the Enochian apologists is because I just came up with this term today. It's because this group has read the book of Enoch. Okay, now there are three books of Enoch out there, if you must know: First Enoch, Second Enoch, and Third Enoch. But when I say book of Enoch, I'm referring to only the book of First Enoch. Okay, I'm not referring to Second or Third Enoch because uh, uh, for some reasons I am not subscribing to the validity or the credibility of Second or Third Enoch. Okay, now the Enochian apologists, the second group of apologists, actually have read the book of Enoch. Some of them have also read the other uh, extra biblical sources, such as the book of Joshua and the book of Jubilees. Okay, but mainly they read the book of Enoch, and they and I, like them, we believe in the validity and the credibility of the book of Enoch. Now I will tell you why uh, as we go along this video. But I just want to say that uh, uh, these are the two distinct groups of Christian apologists. Now the third group, I would say I've not seen anyone in the world today that is uh, actively uh, actively engaged with being this member of this third group. But I would like to see the first two groups combining and becoming the third group, and I would like to think that I'm one of them. The third group actually combined the studies of the first and the second groups together to create a whole bigger picture. Okay, so um, just to let you guys know that there is actually these two or three groups of Christian apologists out there, and today I'm going to be talking about the book of Enoch and why we, meaning this second group of apologists, Enochian apologists, and I myself believe in the validity of this particular book of Enoch. Okay, so I've written an article about this book before, but I'm just going to do a video today to just quickly explain what the book of Enoch is all about. Now, just to give you guys a background, about more than a year ago, I was traveling, in a car with three other mature Christians. Okay, mature Christians meaning people who have been born again and been baptized for more than 10 years. Okay, so and when we were talking among ourselves, the topic just went towards God's seemingly violent and savage attitude towards certain races or tribes of beings in the Old Testament. Okay, if you read Deuteronomy 7 verse 2, you will know what I'm talking about. And these tribes and these certain races of people are known as the Amorites, the Jebusites, the Perizzites, Hittites, Canaanites, Girgashites, and the Hivites. So just a quick look at Deuteronomy 7 verse 2 and what it says. I'm just going to read it out here for you guys today as a reference. So, okay, so Deuteronomy, I'll start from verse 1. It says, when the Lord your God brings you into the land you are entering to possess and drives out before you many nations, the Hittites, Girgashites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites, 7 nations larger and stronger than you. And when the Lord your God has delivered them over to you and you have defeated them, then you must destroy them totally. Make no treaty with them and show them no mercy. Verse 3, it says, do not intermarry with them, do not give your daughters to their sons or take their daughters for your sons. Okay, so this is Deuteronomy chapter 7 verses 1 to 3. Now in verse 2 it says that God had ordered the Israelites to utterly destroy these people. Okay, so when I mentioned this, one of my friends in the car, she agreed with the idea that God seemed to be very violent in the Old Testament, and that she said that it didn't seem as if like it took much for God to kill someone for some sin or mistake. And then of course, and then she went on to say that yeah, this seems to be very genocidal. So why was God violent in the Old Testament? This is also a question that is commonly used by atheists, okay, and some other groups against Christianity. Now here's a quote from Richard Dawkins, probably the most famous atheist in the world at this moment, who wrote The God Delusion. Now this is what he says, and I quote from the book. The God of the Old Testament is arguably the most unpleasant character in all fiction. Jealous and proud of it, a petty, unjust, unforgiving control freak, a vindictive, bloodthirsty, ethnic cleanser, a misogynistic, homophobic, racist, infanticidal, genocidal, filicidal, pestilential, megalomaniacal, sadomasochistic, capriciously malevolent bully. Okay, now you read this particular caption from Dawkins' book, The God Delusion, you got a feeling that Dawkins seems to have a big axe to grind against the God that he claims does not exist. But we have to find out, we as Christians got to find out, is Dawkins right about, God in the Old Testament? Okay. Um, Now, there are also, I mentioned just now that there are also other groups that would use the violence of the Old Testament, God in the Old Testament against him. This question is actually even more pertinent than the atheist one, because if you look around the world today, and especially in the West, they are facing a huge problem, which is terrorism. Now, terrorism is always being carried out in the name of a particular religion, which is, like I mentioned earlier, the second largest religion in the world today. Okay, terrorism is always being carried out in the name of this particular religion, not any other religion, not Christianity, not Buddhism, not Hinduism, nothing else. It's always terrorism is always carried out in the name of this particular religion. Now, the media may be telling us that terrorism has no religion, that these people who carried out such atrocities are misusing or misrepresenting or misunderstanding their religion, etc. But I've studied this particular religion, this world's second largest religion, for a number of years now, and I have to admit that I find that the violence that's being carried out in the name of this religion is sanctioned and in fact commanded by the religion itself. Okay, so by these other groups, then these other groups will lean on the idea that the divine Old Testament violence is a form of tu koki, which is you two in English, when they run out of ideas on how to properly defend their religion, okay? And you know, if Christians dare to call a certain God or a certain prophet violent, then what about the Christian God during Old Testament times? Isn't God very violent as well? Okay, as we have seen in Deuteronomy 7 verse 2. And it is even more puzzling when Jesus himself, when Philip asked Jesus in John chapter 14, and Jesus said, why do you say, show us the Father, Philip? If you have seen me, you have seen the Father. Okay, this is John chapter 14 verse 9. Now here is Jesus who actually commands Christians to love their enemies, and then he tells his Father to forgive his enemies because they know not what they do. But then we have in the Old Testament a God who tells the Israelites to utterly destroy these seven races of beings. So, and then Jesus here is saying, if you have seen me, you've seen the Father. So, isn't that just a little bit odd? And then we actually, uh, we actually think that God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit, they are three persons but one being. So, it just seems that it's two different gods here, two different wills here, if I may. Now, how do we actually defend this? We actually have a short answer and we actually have a long answer, okay? So the reason why we need to look at the book of Enoch is because we want to go to the long answer, but first I'll give you the short answer, okay? Now, why was God violent in the Old Testament? This is a uh, answer from the first group of Christian apologists, the apologists of Christianity against the world's second largest religion, okay? They usually answer it this way. So in Genesis 15, God promised Abraham that his descendants would inherit the land of Canaan, right? So, however, the time for that had not yet arrived, and Abraham, or rather his descendants, will have to wait 400 years. Why? Now, because God said that the iniquity of the Amorites was not yet complete. So, instead of us saying that God was cruel, we should be aware that God is actually being merciful here because he's allowing the sins of the Amorites to reach full measure before he takes any action. So as one generation of Amorites grew up to be as bad, if not even worse than the generation before, therefore, as uncomfortable as it makes us feel, God is fully justified in ordering the massacre of the Amorites in Deuteronomy, even the women, the children, and even the animals, the cattle. Okay, so with this, you actually have to see that, with God's action taken here, it's actually a damn if you do, damn if you don't situation. Because, say for example, if you had the power to see into the future when Adolf Hitler was born, he was an infant, but looking at his baby, say for example, you had this power to know that in the future he would murder 6 million Jews. If you had the means, would you kill baby Adolf Hitler, or would you play the mercy card and let Adolf Hitler grow up? Okay? So either way, whether you kill baby Adolf Hitler or you let Adolf Hitler grow up to be an adult and then having 6 million Jews die as a result, it's a damn if you do, damn if you don't situation. So that's the same thing with God. Okay? So what were the iniquities of these Amorites that God was allowing to reach full measure? So the answer is found in Leviticus 18, which includes sacrificing children to the gods that these these seven races were praying to. Okay? So in Leviticus 18 verse 28, God was not only was being only fair. Okay, he was not racist. He was only being fair because he warned the Israelites that the land would also vomit Israel out if Israel committed the same sins or the same iniquities of the Amorites before them. Okay, so and then of course, lest we forget, later on God allowed the Babylonians and later still the Romans to capture Israel as a form of judgment for Israel's own iniquities. Alright, so this is the short answer. Now I'm going to give you the long answer. So this is where we come to the book of Enoch. I think as I'm going through this, I'm starting to realize that I may have to do this in multiple parts as we go through the book of Enoch. But I hope we don't have to. But I just hope that I'm not making this video too long. Okay, so now let's go to the long answer about why was God violent in the Old Testament. Now, the long answer actually throws the comparison with all other religions and the usage of polemics against Christianity into irrelevance. But it does, however, require that Christian and non-Christian alike go into a deeper understanding of what the first few books of the Bible are teaching. So let's go all the way back to Genesis chapter 3. Now, the story takes off where Adam and Eve had just sinned by eating the forbidden fruit. So part of the punishment that was pronounced by God included this in verse 15, Genesis 3:15. You will read, "And I will put enmity between you," which is the serpent or Satan, okay, "and the woman," which is Eve, "and between your seed and her seed." So God is going to put enmity between Satan and the woman, and between the seed of Satan and the seed of the woman. He will crush your head and you will strike his heel. Now, it's just a bit weird here because we know that the seed in all sexual creatures, and human beings are sexual creatures, we know that the seed in all sexual creatures, is carried by the male species. Okay, the woman or the female does not have any seed. They have the ovum, but they have no seed. Okay, only the guys, the males. Okay, only they are the ones that carry the seed or the sperm. But God here is saying that I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your seed and her seed. So now we know that the seed in all sexual creatures is carried by the male species, no different with humans. So we have to just think for ourselves, what did God mean by the seed of the woman? When we think about it, it's really nothing too mysterious because we will realize that there was only ever one human being that was born without the contribution of a physical father, and that person is Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus Christ himself. Okay? Galatians 4:4 tells us that God's Son was made of a woman. So, uh, one of my favorite speakers actually, by the name of Rob Skiba, actually, he put it this way, and I just paraphrase him. If just think about it, if you were Satan and you were being warned, you had this Genesis 3:15 warning by God, and you knew that someone was prophesied to crush your head. So what are you going to do about it? Right? You would obviously find a way to ensure that this prophecy was never carried out. Okay? You would try to make sure that this seed of the woman would not be born. Okay? Now, we'll just now come to the most interesting bit here. Okay, just remember now Genesis 3:15. Um, God tells he's putting enmity between the serpent and the woman, which means Satan and the woman, and then he's now saying that he's going to put enmity between the seed of the serpent and the seed of the woman. Okay, and the serpent is going to strike uh, the, the 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 woman's seed in the heel, and the woman's seed is going to crush the serpent's seed in the head. Okay. Now we come to Genesis 6 verse 4. Okay. There is actually a a website out there called, I think it's called Gen 6 Productions. Okay. It is um, it is a website that's being managed by a few of my favorite speakers on the subject. It's called Gen 6 Productions. Okay. And they actually created this website as a they're actually alluding to Genesis 6:4, and here we're going to read Genesis 6:4. Now, what is so weird about Genesis 6:4? When I told one of my mature Christian friends about this, he didn't seem to even know the existence of this verse, or he didn't even seem to realize what this verse was all about. Now, Genesis 6:4 tells us something really odd and really weird, and sometimes we just read it through and we have no idea what they were talking about. Okay, so here it is. Genesis 6:4, according to the King James Version, it says this: "And there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. The same became mighty men which were of old, the men of renown." Now, the NIV substitutes the word Nephilim for giants in Genesis 6:4, and to me, Nephilim is actually a more correct term because Nephilim comes from the Hebrew root nephal, which means to have fallen. And this is to describe these giants as the descendants of, who are these guys? The fallen angels. Okay? So Genesis 6:4 is actually as obvious as it is subtle. It is obvious in the sense that it is telling us that the heavenly angelic sons of God, in the Hebrew it is actually known as the Benihar Elohim. Okay? The sons of God. A term which was also used in Job chapter 1 verse 6. These sons of God, these angelic heavenly sons of God, actually procreated children with human women and then begot giant offspring. Okay, and it also said that the same, this offspring, became mighty men which were of old, the men of renown. Okay, so uh, but the Genesis 6:4 is also a very subtle verse, because as we go back to its beginning, it says, there were giants in the earth in those days. What days? Whose days? Okay, okay, many people would think that this refers to the days of Noah, and they are not totally incorrect, because Jesus himself says, just as it was in the days of Noah, so also will it be in the days of the coming of the Son of Man. Okay, this is why we have to realize, we have to study what happened in the days of Noah. Okay, but Rob Skiba, the speaker I mentioned just now, he actually says that those days in this verse actually could refer to the days of Jared, which is the father of Enoch and the great great grandfather of Noah. Okay, now before I continue, I just want to I continue to along to the book of Enoch. I just want to list down the genealogy of us human beings according to the Bible. You know, the first 10 patriarchs. Okay, in the line of Seth. Okay, this is just a bit of trivia fun before we resume with the main story here. So these ancient pre-flood guys, you know, much like us today, they like to name their children for a reason. So if you go, because if Adam is the first man, then Noah is actually 10 generations down from Adam. So you have these guys, okay, the 10 first patriarchs in the line of Seth, because Adam had three sons that were mentioned in the Bible, Cain, Abel, and Seth. But Abel was killed by Cain, and then therefore Cain survived, and then Adam had Seth later on. So the human beings actually grew, some from the line of Cain, and some went down from the line of Seth. Okay, so if you look at the line of Seth and you count 10 generations down, you reach Noah. But let's just go through the names one by one. So Adam, Seth, Enosh, Canaan, Mahalalel, Jared, Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, Noah. Okay, so 10 people here. Now, if you put those names together, you actually look at the meanings, and you will see a very complete story of the gospel. Adam, actually, you know, in Hebrew it means man. Seth means chosen or appointed. Enosh means mortal. Canaan means sorrow. Mahalalel means the blessed God. Jared means to come down. Enoch means teaching. Methuselah means his death would herald, or his death would bring. Okay? Lamech means to despair. Noah means rest or comfort. Okay? So if you put those names together, you're going to find something astonishing, which is the gospel. Man has chosen mortal sorrow. The blessed God came down, teaching that his death shall bring the despairing comfort. Okay? So right from the names of the 10 earliest patriarchs themselves, you will see that uh, the story of the gospel being written there. Okay, let me just pause this video for a while.